Yeah.
We are live.
All right.
Apparently.
Yeah.
We're gonna wait
Are
the
we?
allotted
just
time
we
to make
almost-
sure.
to make sure we're new to this.
We're very new. At a certain point, that's not gonna be a valid excuse.
Wow.
Looks like it.
We're getting better. Like I said, by the time we get some viewership, by the time we have three or four
we should have it
viewers,
figured out.
We'll have it figured out.
Right,
Yeah.
we should.
We should. I think. Anybody wants to listen to us talk, they'll be like,
Yeah, so
hear
we're
these
live now.
Jagoffs talk.
Looks like it's working. No lag. Look pretty good.
All right.
Let's experiment with.
Everybody up to speed. Tyler's trying to figure out bullshit with how to use this thing, Streamlabs. So
It's complicated, all right.
it's complicated.
And I gotta be honest.
I'm kind of retarded. I put a lot of work into it, so
Yeah. He was playing golf when I got here. Golf on the TV.
killing some time playing some golf.
It's too cold to go golfing, I guess.
Actually, it's funny because a friend of mine was talking about maybe buying a golf course.
A golf course.
No, I'm dead serious.
That's good.
It wouldn't be
but
just
pricey
it would be a few
investment.
Yeah, it'd be like $3 million or something.
Yeah.
So it'd be a few of us, but
That's a good. Well,
it's funny because it's a golf course that I've played a bunch too. Well, not a bunch, but I played it a number of times when I was younger. Yeah.
that's a good. Yeah, that's a good thing to own. It's like gas stations. I feel like just kind
Maybe.
of something
I don't
people
know.
go to.
Yeah.
You get you can sell a premium on your food and.
I feel like if you'd have to, if you promote it enough, if you're gonna, it's like loss leader type stuff. If you were to just get a bunch of people to come golf, you're like, hey, look, we'll give you the round for like $25 or something cheap as heck,
Yeah.
and then you make money on the food and all that kind of stuff, or,
Yeah, a lot of golf courses do. I mean, you buy a golf course that exists, it's gonna have a reputation. It's gonna have people that play it regularly, right? So
yeah.
you got that going for you.
I think if you did real cheap memberships too, right?
Yeah.
So
Now, see, what you want is the expensive memberships. That's where the money's at.
Yeah, but not really, because you think about it.
So you want fat wallets coming to your club.
So if you get,
you don't want the pores.
Yeah, but
playing on
those
your
fat
course.
those fat cats don't spend a lot of money either. They're cheap.
That's why you charge up the wazoo for membership.
It's guys like us that'll spend the money, right? Because we'll go and we'll be like, fuck, we'll drink like 10 beers.
Yeah,
or
you
something.
said you make it David, right? You don't care.
Right, get all tankaged.
Spend a little bit of money on having some fun.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I'd look at it. I'd be like, make it like a party sort of place too, right? Where you got to keep the jackassery down because you don't want them to damage everything, but make it a bit of a party sort of thing.
Yeah,
you take the snoot out of golf.
The snoot out of golf.
Yeah, the snoot.
It's like that's like 30% of the appeal.
Yeah, well, for certain. It's funny because once it's like once you get who John Daly is?
Yeah.
Yeah. When he was golfing, it kind of brought out like the rednecks. They were interested in golf now because this guy's drinking a beer.
Yeah,
and
he's drinking and smoking and he's still
like one of our own. He's a golfer, right? And that's kind of like what I feel like you'd want to popularize it.
Yeah, you don't need much to be a good golfer, but
really?
we were.
You don't need much to be a good golfer.
Well, that's what John Daly kind of.
Oh, you mean like athletic
skill?
skill?
Who's that hockey player who he'd smoke like a pack of cigarettes between periods?
Yeah.
I forget who it was.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Back in the day.
Oh yeah, way back in the day. But yeah, so we were going to talk about this Anthony Fauci thing, and how
we're just gonna use his proper name. Don't even give him the doctorate.
Anthony
Don't even give him the
Fauci.
doctorate.
He's not a practicing doctor.
Yeah, doesn't deserve it.
He he testified to Rand Paul that they do not, or the U.S. government does not fund gain-of-function research. And then
the Wuhan Institute.
And then the NIH comes out of nowhere and completely contradicts that, showing that they do in fact, or they were in fact, I don't know if they're still doing it, probably, I don't know if they ended it or anything. Obama actually ended it. Obama's like, no, cut this out, we're not going to do it. And then Fauci reinstated it under Trump. And then we had the entire pandemic of the last 2 years. We're still in the first week of 2 weeks to slowly live.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's only been 4 days.
It's only been 4 days.
Yeah, it feels like
2 weeks.
Feels like longer. Yeah,
it feels like longer, but you're crazy. You're just crazy if you think it's been longer.
Yeah. That's misinformation.
Yeah, that's misinformation. It's false. It's only been 4 days.
I've given up on traveling anymore.
You're all done.
Forget it. Nobody's going anywhere anymore.
And you can't do anything anywhere anymore. There's so many rules and restrictions.
No. I'm not going places where I gotta wear masks. I'm gonna go to Mexico and wear a mask all around the beach and
that's why
pool and stuff.
The travel locations now are like Florida and Texas and Arizona,
exactly. Yeah,
like places that are open.
Oh, the free places you mean?
West Virginia, yeah.
Oh, the places where
free places
where personal autonomy still reigns, eh?
Yeah, I kind of want to move to Texas or West Virginia or Florida. I don't know about Florida.
South Dakota.
The Florida man memes keep me away from Florida.
Yeah.
South Dakota maybe. Colorado. Oh, but that's not a nice place. Colorado's nice with the mountains and stuff, but they legalize psychedelics. What's that?
You mean nice as far as like heat?
No, the mountains are.
Oh, I mean, you're
beautiful.
saying it's not nice. Like when you said it wasn't nice, did you mean it was not?
No,
nice
it's
because of the weather?
woke. Government.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
blue state.
It's a blue state. That's basically what makes it not nice.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure in Denver they legalize psychedelics, and you got the mountains, skiing. I like skiing.
I don't know what ones are purple and what ones are blue anymore. I mean, obviously you got blue in California and New York, and you've got red states in
Florida.
Florida's kind of becoming a red state more, but it's always sort of been a purple
Florida's
state.
Red now.
It's
with
red
DeSantis.
more now,
There's a lot of talk.
Texas
about
was always a red state, but it's kind of becoming more and more
Texas
purple
is
now.
like red except for Austin, and Austin's just a huge population center.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the problem with even New York, right? You get the whole of the state, which is
completely dead now.
Right, but you get the whole of the state. It's it's condensed. The population's condensed to like 50% all around New York City, right?
And that's the problem that you have with these major population centers. It's weird how we do things. How these major population centers kind of sway the vote in the way that they do.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they know when they're doing this. When they're doing all their political pushes, that they have to get these certain sections. They don't really care about the outliers. They don't care about the suburbs because it's not really going to change anything.
Yeah, exactly. And they can, the population centers vote to take resources away from the rural communities, and then that hurts everything because then it's like, well, now the farmers have less water, so they don't, their harvests aren't as big, and so there's less food for everybody. It's like,
It's pretty sad, like when people say that their vote doesn't count. They're kind of right in certain cases.
If you're in New York State, your vote doesn't matter.
Yeah,
the state's going Democrat. Period. No matter what happens. But
so it's pretty frustrating. It's almost like you'd want to move to a swing state.
Which is the beauty of freedom, is you can do that. I mean, it's hard. I guess you do have to get a little bit of resources together to make that move or have a job lined up or something. But you can do it. I think a lot of people, the bar is too low or too high in their eyes, and so when they could do it, they just maybe don't want to take the risk, and then they feel stuck. But it's like, well, that's what happens when you don't take risks, right? You got to take risks to get places.
We digressed.
We went very far from Fauci.
Let's talk a little bit more about that again.
Yeah, I mean, have you been hearing about that? You know what's going on?
Well, I watch. Yeah, I love Rand Paul, to be honest. I think he's hilarious because he'll just challenge like crazy, right? And he's smart. He's articulate. I mean, he's the perfect villain for the left, right? Because they're like the guy is
libertarian.
Well, it's to them he's like a supervillain. To
advocate freedom.
You know what I mean? Like to them they're like, oh, this guy's a supervillain because he's a genius, basically. Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's a genius, but he's
clearly got his wits with him. I mean, he's a libertarian. Libertarianism is fairly unpopular overall, right? Yeah. So he's got people coming at him from every side in order to hold your own the way that he does. Mm-hmm. You have to have your wits together.
But I just love like everybody probably at this point, anybody watching this anyway, has probably seen the whole you don't know what you're talking about.
Completely condescending.
If I'm to be frank, you don't know what you're talking about.
He's being completely condescending towards Rand Paul.
Yeah.
And now We have the NIH, the National Institute of Health, I think is how it is. It's how the letters work.
And then there's the NIA, then the NIAID, which is the National Institute for something infectious diseases, whatever.
Right, but it was the NIH that came out and wrote the letter.
He's the director of the NIAID, right?
Fauci?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how it works exactly,
but I just know it was the NIH that came out with a letter.
Yeah, that was Daszak.
Admitting that they do, in fact, fund gain of function.
Oh, that's
research.
not what I'm talking about. I thought you meant what the first letter that Daszak put out saying that there was no way it was leaked from a lab and all this kind of bullshit.
No, that's all BS as well. But yeah, they basically came out and undermined exactly what Fauci said to Rand Paul. You know, he's like, no, we don't do this. You don't know what you're talking about. All that, completely condescending towards him. And then they come out and they're like, yeah, actually, we do.
Yeah, you know why, right? You know why this is all happening, right? It's those 44 Beagles, man. It's those 44 Beagles. You know about that story, right?
That's bad.
That's brutal. That's brutal stuff. Bad. But that's what's sinking them because it's funny before.
Yeah, but it's so weird that that's coming out. Like,
no, I know, but that's what I'm saying.
The institutions are turning on him now.
Well, yeah, but you see that with Biden too, right? They're doing the same thing where now they're
right, like but that almost feels like a ploy to get like someone else in, whether it's Kamala or someone else.
Well, it's like a fall guy. Like, so I think they maybe know that the boat's sinking, that the NIAID and all this ship is sinking, so they're gonna put a fall guy to it.
Western society is sinking.
Yeah, they're gonna put a fall guy, and the fall guy is gonna be Fauci.
Yes.
Hey, actually, it'd be very poetic. Because, like, think about it. Think about all, like, last year, how they're calling all the healthcare workers heroes.
And now they're firing them.
Yeah, now they're firing them because they won't get the vaccine.
A disaster. And they're bringing in the National Guard to come and help out in some of these places. Plus, you have to an extent, the supply chain shortage is completely artificial when you have 100 boats waiting to dock in... what is it? Is it just LA?
Yeah.
Why?
69 days or something it's taking for them to dock.
Well, yeah, because they have to wait like a week or 2 weeks once they get there, and if one person on that crew tests positive, they have to go all the way back to their country of origin, which doesn't make any sense in a global pandemic where it's like it's not like you're keeping the virus out. The virus is already there, so why don't you just treat the people, with your infrastructure and not sacrifice the supply chain?
It's silly. The whole thing's silly. It's almost like it almost has a feel like they're trying to sink like the middle market, and it wasn't enough.
It feels like
the year and a half
demolition.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the year and a half wasn't enough. And now they're like, we got to extend this.
We'll get into the conspiracy stuff now. If you know anything about the Great Reset.
I know about.
You know how they released that video. Yeah. You will own nothing, and you will be
happier. Who's gonna own it?
Exactly. Right. Who's gonna? Someone's gonna own it.
Someone's gonna own it,
and it's gonna be Bill Gates and his friends. Like,
oh my God, we could talk about some weird stuff with Bill Gates, but we'll leave that to another podcast.
Bill Gates is a can of worms.
Yeah, let's talk about that in another podcast. Hey, there's a little teaser for you guys.
At some point, we're gonna get into
future
Bill Gates.
podcast. We'll talk about.
We're gonna do some homework, and we're gonna really dig up the dirt.
Oh, I know some
Bill
stuff.
Gates.
I know some stuff. Which is pretty fun. Yeah, but let's stay on topic. Anyways, it kind of has that feeling. Like it feels like that it didn't do enough to destroy enough of the middle market. Right. That year and a half. Like I think they weren't. I'm gonna say again. I don't know any of this to be true or anything, but this like. If I'm going to wrap this in a conspiracy theory, it feels like they had this idea that a year and a half of lockdowns and various shutdowns and that kind of thing was going to crush most of the middle market. And they were actually a little more resilient. Middle market was a little more resilient. Like people were resilient as far as like changing how they do things, how they do business and things, and people were keeping afloat.
Yeah. Possibly.
Or we could be completely wrong, and it's just a bunch of stupid idiots trying to run things, and they're just mismanaging.
No, I think it's naive to think that. It's possible, but I think it's naive to think that, these people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
you know.
But people are stupid.
Yeah,
and it's not like
here's what I think is going on, and this is this is something that I think Tim Pool has talked about a lot. It's no, fuck, I lost my train of thought. What was it?
Man, there's no conductor. There's no
there's
conductor in
nothing
that
going
in that engine of yours.
Exactly.
Too much DMT.
I need to smoke DMT.
You need to. Yeah, you
I need to
something.
do a proper dose of DMT. I've been craving. Well, I'm afraid of it almost at this point, but I have to go in it.
He's digressing. He's
to go in
digressing
it.
completely. Oh man, this is as scatterbrain as Tyler's ever been. Come on, scatterbrain, let's go. Get it together. This is live, son. Nobody's watching. Wait till I get some people watching, man.
Yeah, I know.
You're gonna be nervous as heck. You're gonna lose
Oh,
your
absolutely.
train a lot.
I'll lose my train just because I'm nervous that there's 10 people watching.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! There's 10
Somebody
people.
donated $3.
What are we talking about? The economy collapsing.
You were saying Tim
what they're
Pool's
doing.
idea, like
Yeah.
reference back onto that.
Yeah, what was Tim?
I don't know.
Pool's idea?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What is he talking about? It's the controlled demolition aspect of this. They're not naive.
Almost like a false flag operation.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got 2 seconds left, buddy.
I
You
lost
can't
it.
figure it out.
I lost it. If I catch it,
It comes back, you'll just interject it wherever we're
Yes.
talking.
Yes.
We'll be in the middle of a subject. You'll be like, "Oh yeah, and so
I
by
remember.
the way,
I remember now.
no, I don't. I've said this to you many times. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, right? I don't like to go on conspiracy theories. I like if you can prove something, great, but I'm also not one to just dismiss things as conspiracy theories. I think that's stupid. I like to debate stuff, and I think it's like anything. If you get two people and they're both telling you a story, there's truth somewhere in the middle. You know, sometimes it's skewed 70 over here or 70 over this way, but it's definitely not 100%, 0%. Like there's always going to be a middle ground where the truth kind of lies. So
I figured it out.
So when you let me finish this point before you get on to yours. When you start to delve into some of these conspiracy theories, you can actually see that there's truth. There's some truth based in behind it, right?
Yeah, a lot of the time, and I mean, I do think the word. Do you know the conspiracy theory? Well,
that's their way of
that they kind of injected the term into the public through the media. The CIA did this in like the 70s or the 80s or something, specifically to undermine and discredit the UFO people. To kind of so you kind of introduce this word or this concept, conspiracy theory, and you make it seem like it's completely, you basically make conspiracy theory synonymous with just crazy, false, not true, and you use it to smear the UFO people because you have recovered alien technology that you don't want the public to know about. But that's just my 2 cents. But it's one of my favorite conspiracy theories because it's kind of funny. But
I love that we use the term conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
right? Like it's become.
I don't use it as a pejorative.
No,
anymore.
I know, but I mean, it's.
If you say that's a conspiracy theory, I'm interested in what they're saying.
Oh, me too. Me too.
It's not dismissive to me in any way. There's too much. Like Alex Jones has been right too many times at this point.
I'm interested in all information and sides. I love debate, right?
Yeah.
So,
but let's get back to this.
Go ahead.
This Tim Pool analogy that I was going to bring up about what the politicians might be doing or what might be going on with the economy not having been completely collapsed just yet. They did an experiment with, I think it was mice or rats, small rodents, where they take them and they put them in like a vat of water and see how long they swim for before they drown. And basically, and what they did was the rat would swim for, I don't remember the exact times, it'd be like an hour or something, and then it'd give up and sink down.
Yeah.
But when it did that, the scientist or the researcher would reach in and pull it out.
Right.
And let it, catch its wind, dry off and everything. And then they would put it back in. And
I already know this is going.
They would swim.
It's conditioning.
They would swim for days after that.
Really?
Because of hope.
Oh, wow.
At first, right, you're in there, you're swimming, you're about to drown, but there's no way out. You're trying everything you can't get out. Eventually, you should be like, well, it's not worth it.
That's not where I thought that was going, but okay.
But then when the hand comes in and pulls you out, you have hope. And so when you're back in that situation, you're going to hold out much longer because it happened before. You got pulled out before, so now you're just hoping that it happens again. And so that might be what they're doing with the economy, where it's kind of the first year or something. It's that you're swimming in the water, and just when people maybe are about to give up hope, or Smith and Wesson stock goes way up that you can't get bullets anymore, right? Everyone's freaking out. Things start to ease off. Things start getting better. Things start going again. Things start working again. And so now people have hope. And so now when they reintroduce, lockdowns, and when they sort of increase the throttle again on their restrictions and their authoritarianism, people are going to be more reluctant to take extreme measures to defend themselves from it, because they have hope that, okay, well, maybe they do have our best interests in mind, and maybe they are going to let off at some point, or maybe it is for the reasons that they say, it's for our safety, and eventually, it'll go back to normal. But of course they won't. But it's almost like a method of
conditioning.
Not condition, but like what's the word? Like desensitizing us a little bit to what's happening.
Dumbing us down.
Just kind of making you used to it, as if it's normal, and so that they can keep doing it, and then you don't really question it, and then they can push farther and farther, faster, because now we're holding out that, okay, well, they did ease off of restrictions. They are now here talking about. I'm pretty sure they talked about getting rid of the mask mandates in March. Yeah.
They're saying, basically. I read this thing in the CBC saying that basically things will be back to normal sometime towards the end of March.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think that's what the plan in Ontario is.
Well, I mean,
like
the numbers have been going down.
Yeah, but that never mattered.
Right? Like Florida.
That never meant anything. Florida and Texas stayed open, and their numbers and cases were comparable to California.
No, I know.
What
I'm saying is now, like, Florida's the lowest state in the union now. Like they've got the lowest numbers COVID, and they're the most open state.
They're the party state.
Right. They're where everybody's
Everyone's going to Miami to party.
But
everyone's got thick immune systems.
All this is gonna show now is that we delayed the inevitable, where this could have been probably done a year ago.
Yeah.
With natural immunity, how we just let it.
But what would you do? What would you do if you were in this situation, right? And you're actually caring about the people, and you want things to be better. And like, I've thought about this, and none of it made sense. And this was my idea from the beginning. The second they're like, "Oh, we're gonna lock everything down," I would have said these exact same words. This isn't a retrospective looking back on it. This is a virus that is not a threat to young people. It is not a threat to the vast majority of the population, especially if you're healthy. So why can't we just be very careful around retirement homes and elderly communities, right? Be very careful around those groups of people. Wear masks in the grocery stores and the doctor's office, places people have to go, but otherwise keep everything open. And allow, and be like, hey, here's what's going on, and if you're be healthy for one. Be healthy, that's going to help you, but here's what's going on, and so here's what we're going to do to try to help. If you are at risk, avoid going out to restaurants, avoid close proximity to
everything
people.
You say,
but like, why should I right, if I'm not at risk, I should be able to still go to work and contribute to society, and keep the economy running.
But you're not,
especially since a lot of the people at risk are retired.
Yeah, but you're not taking this into account. And I'm not going to make excuses for missteps that governments made and such at the start. But you're not taking into account that nobody really knew a lot of anything at first, right? So when they did this 15 days to slow the curve,
but they did know a lot.
But hold on, this will make my point. So they knew all this stuff, but you can look at it now, a year and a half later, and say, "Oh, I would have done this, I would have done that, I would have done that." No, it was a gamble then too, though. Like what Sweden did was a gamble. I liked that Sweden did that. Like they did exactly what you're saying, right? Yeah. They changed nothing. They just locked down the retirement homes, not as good as they should have. They didn't take care of their aging population as good as they should have initially, and that's why they had a massive surge at first. But then it leveled out. So they gambled without really knowing, basing it on common sense, what they thought was common sense, and it worked. I think anyway, and I think a lot of people would say it worked. Some people would try and say it didn't.
They play the politics game.
Right, they'll play the politics games with it. But nobody really knew much of anything. So it's like it's hard to say at first that anybody sort of misstepped. I understand the missteps at first, but what I don't understand is, and this is where it starts to look like it's contrived, like somebody's actually orchestrating this result. When the science started to show that it wasn't as lethal as they thought it was going to be, that the vaccines don't work as well to stop spread as they thought they were going to. All these various different things.
You can go back to before the vaccine.
But I'm saying,
too, right?
or even before that. But I'm saying, but when all this information started to come out, they weren't changing the approach. It's like no. they had the end result in mind right off the start. They were like, this is the plan, and we're going to stick to the plan because this is the outcome we're looking for. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it felt like. Because otherwise you'd go, okay.
I think the whole thing is
you'd change as you rolled with it.
Yeah, I do think the whole thing is contrived.
What do you think's the end result then? What do you think they're trying to achieve?
The Great Reset.
The Great Reset? So you think that
they're going to take all your money? Not your money. They're going to take all your stuff.
All your stuff.
Not just your money.
So a one world government.
They had
communistic one world government.
Yeah, only it's going to be modernized.
How so?
It's not going to be. It'll be more like China than communism.
No, listen. There's a lot of proponents to China's system. Like there's a lot of people that think it works. I don't know why they think it works.
Well, it works in the sense that you don't have anything stopping you from doing something. You don't have regulation. You say, build that building. All right, well, there's these houses in the way. No, get rid of the house. Well, that person lives there. Well, fucking kick them out. Yeah. And if they won't go, throw them in jail. Right? That's how China works. Yeah. And from a business perspective, that's very appealing.
Oh, sure.
That is very appealing. From an ethical perspective, it is evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we got to watch out. You have people like Charlie Munger praising China's ability to get things done, and that I think is very dangerous.
You have people like Trudeau praising China.
Yeah, but he's the son of a communist.
True dumb.
His dad was Fidel Castro. We all know that.
I love when they put the sides. He looks like him. Like he's the love child of Fidel Castro.
He said nice things about Castro when Castro died. Like that's crazy. Well,
a lot of people did.
That's crazy. Though.
And Che, what's his face?
Guevara
or whatever. Yeah. Same with him. Same with the other guy.
Crazy.
It's crazy. I can't remember the other guy's name. And then some people say about Gaddafi the same thing. I mean, Gaddafi at first was kind of actually pretty popular. And then
I think
it's like all these guys.
Wasn't Gaddafi more of like a lesser of evil kind of thing?
Well,
and then they overthrew him, and something worse came in to fill the power gap.
Yeah, kind of.
That was Saddam for sure.
He led the revolt against the Libyan army apparently or whatever. He was like I don't know. He was somehow high up in that kind of thing. I forget the story, but I've seen it before.
But did you see, going back to the end result, did you see in the latest bill that the Democrats had, they took it out. Thankfully, they took it out eventually, but they had in there effectively a tax on unrealized gains.
Oh yeah. Well, they're still trying to push that.
That's literally they've been Elizabeth Warren
trying to push. They're
was
trying
talking
to push,
about like a wealth tax in the past. Like that's literally them taking your stuff. They're taxing fake money at this point. Mm-hmm. And for anyone that doesn't understand what that means, if you buy a house for $500,000 and then the real estate market goes up and it's worth $600,000 the next year, you're going to get taxed on that $100,000 that doesn't exist.
That you've never made yet.
It's just fake money.
Exactly.
It's an unrealized gain. You could sell your house and get it.
Yeah.
And that's
which is what capital gains are.
And that's capital gains, and that's when you normally have to pay taxes on that.
Right.
But now they're like, no, you're going to have to pay taxes on that. And so it's like they would force that kind of policy alone would force millions of people to sell their properties just to pay that tax bill, right? Real estate market goes up, maybe even artificially to force this. Now you got a $10,000 tax bill, and you're talking about a young family that is maybe cash flow positive by $300 a month, right? Barely scratching it by, and now they get a $10,000 bill on fake money. What are they going to do? They either have to go into debt to pay it, or they just sell their house. And you realize the gain and pay the taxes, and then now they're just going to have to rent, and that's ultimately what they're going for, right? You will own nothing, and eventually the big corporations are going to buy up all the property.
But again, it's
at least that's I think where it's going.
So when you say that though, it's like it's who's doing it, and because when you say governments and such, I don't think.
No, it's beyond governments.
Well, it's lobbyists, right? It's big
No.
business, and it's lobbyists that are doing this, right? The guys that are pulling the string for these government officials.
I think it's behind all of that.
So, like who? What, you think there's an
Well,
evil leader?
you not like singular, but you have figures like George Soros
sure,
that
right.
play weird roles where their
sure.
money goes into very strange places and gets, influences politics in a lot of different ways. And so I think...
But that's normal, though. That kind of thing's normal,
Yeah.
because these guys have been trying to make money. Because that's the thing about...
That's how Soros makes money.
That's what I'm saying. But so these
But
guys have
that's
been trying to do this
ultimately what it
forever,
is.
right? But what's the difference
Yeah.
now is what
There's no difference.
No, I'm saying, so from like the Rockefellers or the Fords or or the Koch brothers and stuff, these kind of people that did the same sort of thing to make money back in the day, what's the difference now why would they want like this great reset when you can just play the system the same way you've always played the system?
It's no longer about money, it's about power. And I think control over people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them...
Well, it's always been about
I
that
think
too.
a lot of them believe that they're doing something good. They really get behind the whole climate change narrative, and so they think to themselves, they're not going to sacrifice their private jets. So what do? Well, they're just going to make sure that the average person can't afford a plane ticket.
Yeah, that's
And that's
classism.
how-
They've
and
had
that's-
classism forever, right?
Yeah,
But this
That's
is what I'm
what
saying.
they're
These
doing.
aren't new things, though. And that's why I'm
it's
asking what you
definitely
think.
ramped up. It's
Yeah,
definitely happening
okay,
a lot more,
maybe,
and it's
but
definitely
or-
happening to a more extreme degree.
Or it could be that we're seeing more of it now because we have the internet, we have social media, we have all these things.
No, because things are worse.
What I'm saying though is
It
like,
isn't. You aren't as free as you
like
were
you're
in
seeing-
1980.
You're seeing the quiet stuff. Like you're seeing, like it's like the quiet things are being said out loud.
But
right?
it's no longer just it's active,
Yeah.
right? You're not as free today as you were in 1980,
Well,
right? Whether they were doing the same thing or not, now it's like the hammer is coming down.
I don't know.
And
Like
the,
again, I don't know, and I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm just trying to give more of a for this. Give more of a
Alex just wants to defend
a
George Soros.
controversial, or what I mean. I want to challenge you on it because if I just start agreeing with you, then it's not really whatever. I agree with a lot of things you're saying about it. What I can't get around is the lack of sort of like actual evidence of it. It becomes all speculative to this point, and then when I speculate on something, this is how my mind
How
works
is-
anyway.
how is
But
that
hold on,
not
let me-
evidence?
So when I speculate on something, I like to actually be able to fortify it with some kind of evidence behind it. I mean, you can say that.
Okay, but how is the World Economic Forum releasing a video talking about the Great Reset, where you will own nothing and you will be happy, and then 2 years later, 3 years later, within a bill is proposed a tax that would just steal your property from you? How is that not evidence that someone or some group or groups are doing exactly what I just said?
Yeah.
You know?
I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying it
Yeah.
necessarily isn't. But I'm saying when we say things like that, we've kind of got to back them up with some evidence.
I think
right?
that's pretty
Could be.
substantial piece of evidence.
You know that the Agenda 21 has been around since Bush. Bush talked about it.
I've heard about it. I don't know enough about
He
Agenda
talked about it.
21.
He talked about it. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
And it's this elite I mean, you really want to get into it. I think it's occult stuff, possibly.
But I mean, we're almost at the end of 2021, so it's like
And
maybe they're
things
behind. They're behind their agenda.
things are crazy. November
I know there
7th.
are. But if you look back to anything, and I've done a little research on this, back before the internet and stuff, it's almost like this stuff is cyclical. The same sort of thing that we saw in Trump.
It's
the same sort of thing we saw in Trumpism essentially was Reagan, his first term. Because people were completely against him too. It was the same sort of thing. He was this actor.
I think it's similar but different because now it's postmodern, which is a bigger deal.
Yeah.
But it is cyclical. It's the rise and fall of civilizations. You have a cycle where something happens.
Have you read that where it's talking about how the U.S. they're over 200 years now as a civilization, and they do all these different where they show all the different civilizations and how they fell and how long
I haven't
they.
read but I've heard that
it's this real neat sort of thing.
Rome, China.
Yeah. They only have a certain amount of years before they fall.
It's because it follows a cycle the cycle is it's strangely accurate. Like what is it? You get a strong government, which brings bountiful fruits, right? There's resources.
The bountiful fruit.
There's resources, I don't know, a nation becomes wealthy, and then because they get wealthy and they have food and everything, then they start to become lazy. And then when they become lazy, they get fat and they get lazy, and they start to push all responsibility up to and including moral responsibility onto the government, right? And society decays because you don't have people with a strong moral system anymore. You just have people who kind of defer to the authority for what's right and wrong, and that's very dangerous because then that empowers the authority. And I think that's one of the major differences between, say, the Reagan era and today. Is I think in the Reagan era you had a lot more people who were even if not like devout, they were religious, and they had that moral sort of backbone to their personal philosophy in life and how they live their life. And now you don't have that. Now you have degeneracy.
Well, we've talked about this before. I think on the last podcast we were talking about, and I was saying like influencers, for example, somebody's got. I don't even know what she has because I don't pay attention to this kind of stuff. Let's say someone like Kim Kardashian, she's probably got 50 million followers or something stupid like that. So when somebody has that kind of following and they're that kind of influencer, their self-importance is so high.
Yeah,
they become their own sort of idol, right?
This is another Tim Pool reference. Tim Pool's got a lot of rat studies up his sleeve.
Rat studies?
Well, they did this.
Full of these rat studies.
The Rat Utopia. Where they gave them everything that they needed, right? And eventually, for starters, the rats just started ripping each other to shreds and eating each other, right? Like they had all the space that they needed, they had all the food, all the water. Right there was no scarcity in the Rat Utopia, and it still devolved into chaos. But there were different groups, and there was a group, there were some rats that fell into a category that they called the beautiful ones. And these really, literally all they did all day was sit there and groom themselves. That's all they cared about. And we have this in human society right now. You have people like Kim Kardashian. Do you think when Kim Kardashian, I don't know anything about her life, but I'm sure she's got some event coming up that
she was on SNL. Not too long.
Right. So, I'm sure at some point, she's got some event coming up, something. Whether she's going to be on TV, a party, something that she's going to be doing. I guarantee you, whatever that next thing is, she is thinking about what she's going to wear. She's thinking about, who the designer is going to be, how it's all going to come together, the kind of pictures that she's going to try to take, and something that to you and I would be completely alien, but that's probably her life.
Yeah. And
you have a lot of people who are like that, where it's just about that next thing, that next event. What am I gonna look like, or how are people gonna perceive me? And
it's pretty sick when you think about it. But I find it kind of funny that they're always using mice or rats, right?
But they're very similar to humans.
Yeah, I know. Well, why not the monkeys, man?
People would feel like it was cruel.
Like the beagles.
Yeah.
Do you know all that?
Bad.
Do you know all that stuff that they were doing?
Yeah, they were letting the sandflies eat them alive.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was brutal. Like the Wicker Man. Like that movie. Not the bees. Not the bees.
Yeah, it's
disgusting.
absolutely disgusting with it.
And I laugh, but I'm not laughing at that because I think it's
there
disgusting.
Is no.
I just think it's sick.
There's no end to that. There's no.
There's
nothing
sick,
that they
though.
get out of that experiment, other than I think it's occult stuff.
Yeah, it's so sick though that the reason why they used beagles is because they were nice. That's the whole reason why they chose beagles. That's disgusting. You're using a dog because it's a nice dog.
Yeah.
For fuck's sakes. These are some evil. I don't know how you can go to a job. You're a lab tech or you're a scientist or whatever the fuck you want to call these idiots, and they go, okay, well, hey, look, we got a whole juicy load of beagles. Okay, we got 44 of them. All right, we got a good deal on 44 beagles.
Yeah, we're just
beagle
gonna see
pups.
what happens if they get
and what we're gonna do is we've set up some experiments we want you to do. we're going to need you to do this, that, and the other. And these guys, these scientists, these gals and guys went, let's do that. Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah, I'm going to see what happens there. You sick fuck. Like, it's funny because I think this will be sort of what sinks them.
It's like in Australia. They murdered the rescue dogs.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, they murdered a bunch of rescue dogs so that people wouldn't leave their homes to go pick them up.
I did hear that. I did, so they wouldn't go and pet them and pick them up and
to take them home, to adopt them.
I did hear that. Oh, I didn't know that was actually 100% true, though.
Australia has fallen so quickly.
Could that be something as simple as proximity to China? You think maybe they're getting really heavily influenced by China because they're so close?
I think that is going on.
And they're a big trading partner with them, right?
I think that is going on.
So I don't know. Like it does seem like I'm not demonizing the Chinese people. I think they're fantastic people.
Yeah, but the government is
the government, right?
Sick thing.
Maybe it's the Chinese government that.
I think that I do think China has a lot of influence in Australia. I forget the details, specific stories, but I do think there were some pretty big stories of things that China was doing in Australia, sort of with the media and all that. I mean, we're
liken this.
We're pretty. You
gotta liken this a little to like Germany.
Well,
like
yeah,
the 30s Germany,
like everything.
But I'm saying, but you can.
I think it's more like the Soviet Union.
Or either or. But I mean, but you think the most sort of the most prevalent of the evil and the most recent of the evil would be Germany, right? In the 30s. But it almost feels like the same. Like the Chinese people are going along with it because they really don't see exactly.
They don't know what's going on.
Like you hear about the Uyghur Muslims and all this stuff.
The internet is censored in China.
It's censored there. So they're just.
But even if they did know what was going on, they probably don't know exactly what's going on. The organ harvesting and all that. They probably, if a Chinese person needs an organ and they get it from a Uyghur, they're probably not saying, "Oh yeah, no, we're just gonna get you. We're gonna go to the Uyghur camp and get you a new liver or whatever." They don't know about this. They probably think, "Oh yeah, we got a liver for you," and then the government goes and picks it up. It's kind of like in Germany, but.
What about this too? You heard about that? You heard about that woman that got raped on the train, right? Did you hear about this?
I've heard
for like
a lot
10
of
minutes.
Getting raped.
This guy was raping this girl.
Jeez.
He was sexually assaulting her and raping her. Essentially, people were watching and videotaping. They think they don't have any. Nobody's stupid enough to come up with any of these videos. Thank God, but they just literally sat there and nobody did anything about it.
Yeah, there's a weird.
Is there this weird complacency going on where people don't want to step up and be brave?
They don't want to do. They don't. But that's that moral decay.
Yeah.
They don't feel like they have a moral obligation to step in to that situation. Someone is harming another person.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, "Oh, it's not my problem."
Well,
it's the state's problem. It's the police's problem to deal with that.
And I literally just saw a video just yesterday on my news or my reels or whatever, or the feed reels on Facebook, where this black guy is on a bus or a train or something like that, and you only catch it like sort of mid argument, whatever. And there's a smaller white chick there, and he's saying to her something like, "Tell me to chill out" or something like that.
Right, and he just or
tell me to have a chill pill again or something like that. And then she says it, and he just pounds her. I don't know if he hit her with an open hand or he punched her, but everybody's standing there. Nobody says or does anything. They groaned a little, but
that's an evil person to do that.
And what I'm saying though is like, I think the people that were there were kind of like, one, shocked. Two, I think they start seeing color at that point. They start seeing this is a black man hit a white woman.
That too, people are so hypnotized.
Now I think if I'm 100% sure, not to sound like racist by saying this, but if that were a white male and a black woman, wow, that would be a different scene altogether. Not, mind you, I think the black woman would probably knock the white guy out because black women are fucking tough. But
and the fucking caliber of white guy is probably not very
that would do that
to
right?
do that. Yeah, he's probably.
But I mean, my point is, aside from all that, it's just
people are seeing
society,
color possibly. But I think it's beyond that.
Fear. I think it's fear to step up and say or do anything. We've been.
I think it's cowardice.
Well, no, but not necessarily, because I don't think a lot of people. I think a lot of people that aren't cowards, that are just maybe, they're hesitant. Like, I know a lot of people like that. I know a lot of guys that I wouldn't consider cowards, but they're not They're not guys.
I think what you do when the time comes determines whether or not you were a coward and the kind of man you
well,
were.
humans have a heavy fight or flight, right?
Right.
So you either have a heavy fight in you or a heavy flight in general. But those can be manipulated and screwed with. So I think a lot of what's going on with that is I think people that have sort of some fight to them are being scared into just sitting back and shutting up.
They're cowards. They're being turned into cowards.
Well, I don't know. I think that's no. I think that's a real lazy way to paint it.
No, I think that's just how it is.
Because there's nuance. There's nuance in between. Like you can't just say there's just cowards and there are brave people.
You got a man.
There's a middle ground.
Punching a woman and you do nothing. You were a coward.
Well,
I think it's that simple.
Okay, so
Plain
I
and
would
simple.
like to agree with you on a plain and simple point like that because I'm the guy that if I saw that that guy'd lose his teeth, hands down. There's no way I wouldn't step in. I don't care. I wouldn't even see color. I wouldn't see anything. I don't give a shit.
No,
Some
that's
guy
a
hit a
blackout
woman. I'm just
situation.
gonna knock him the fuck out.
Especially apparently she was a smaller girl.
Well, she was. Oh yeah, it was disgusting. The video was disgusting.
Yeah.
I hated seeing it. I can't believe it was on, like it was on the news or whatever. You know the 5 things that Facebook does now, where they do like these little mini video things, or whatever. It was on one of those. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't ask for this. Why is this on? This is somewhere
It's
where I
probably
just
trending.
Well, yeah. But I'm surprised that Facebook kind of played it like without any kind of warning, without anything like that. Because a lot of times you'll see a video and it says it'll like block it out at first, especially like YouTube or something. It'll block it out and it'll say this has got graphic things or things like that. Mm-hmm. But there's another funny thing. Like, look how desensitized we're becoming. That's not even graphic to us anymore. It's like, oh, that was just some dude hitting a woman.
You had a year of rioting,
right?
Where people were murdered in the streets. When the media says to us, no, there's no riots.
Peaceful protest.
David Pakman went on Chris Williamson's Modern Wisdom podcast. David Pakman is he's a leftist commentator on YouTube. Mm-hmm. His head's very far up his own behind.
Right.
He said in this interview that when he thinks about riots over the last years, he thinks about January 6th.
I know, yeah.
Right. So the one riot where virtually nothing happened, a bunch of people went into a building that they shouldn't have, but they were let in, so it's all ambiguous what's going on there. But it got a little bit out of hand.
Shot, one of the rioters. Which
which
Ashley Babbitt.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
but compared to some of the nights in cities where probably hundreds of millions of dollars in property damage. Well, no, like I'm talking in a single night.
Yeah, I know.
Right. This was January 6th was like a one day thing, right? And there were certain nights where like probably hundreds of millions of dollars in property all over the country was destroyed, burned, businesses, small businesses, and people were murdered in the street, beaten, murdered. You saw one video of a guy like getting his head smashed in by another guy, and he was like laying on the ground, like motionless. Like that was a scary video. And you're gonna go and you're gonna say that when you think of riots over the last year, January 6th is what comes to mind. No. How ideologically and politically motivated can you be beyond that? That's insane. You're sacrificing basic common sense at that point.
So what do you think then? Okay, so if you bring it back then, do you think that people believe that baloney? Or do you think they...
What David Pakman said? Like, do I think
Well, I'm
David
just saying,
Pakman
like, in general,
believes...
do you think people believe that? Like, when they're... Even though they're being force-fed this kind of information month after month after month after month, right? Do you think that the masses believe it? Or do they start to go, look, no, I don't believe that bullshit, but I'm not really going to say much about it. I don't believe that shit.
Yeah, that's most people.
Right. So, I mean, if this is all happening like this, don't you think at some point this... If you call this sort of like an overcorrection, if this is like like they're overdoing it, right? That there would be a correction back the other way, where people go, this is ridiculous, almost like the woke.
There's gonna be something, but the issue is they are Marxists. Marxists are. It's not just a pendulum swing. Pendulum? I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Anyway, it's not just a swing in one way or another, right? Like Marxism is very deliberate and strategic.
Mm-hmm.
And their moves are calculated, and the things that they're doing are on purpose in a lot of ways. And you can, if you really dig into the literature of critical theory and critical race theory and all this stuff, you kind of see what they're doing and how a lot of this is calculated and on purpose. And they're essentially you're actively at war to kind of that's why you have instead of coming up with a new concept, they redefine racist to basically mean what you and I consider racist.
Mm-hmm.
But to normie, when they hear the word racist, they react emotionally, and so they do this on purpose because they want to say, okay, that person's a racist. Now, you and I would look at that. Nothing that person did is racist
right.
in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
He just said a thing, but no, that person is. The people who aren't paying that much attention are like, oh my god, that guy's a racist. I don't like that guy. They react emotionally to it, and then their mind is tainted on that. And this is all on purpose. And so that's where the issue comes, because it's not a mindless thing. Now, it isn't like everybody is deliberately a Marxist doing this, but it's like, it's the organizers of Black Lives Matter. It's people in these influential positions who know exactly what they're doing. And I don't think that there's anybody on the other side that is organized enough, or at least they don't have the ability to get enough get enough support behind them to counteract that.
Yeah.
And so that's where that's the big problem here, and why I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, just because a lot of what they're doing, a lot of the rhetoric, a lot of the propaganda, it's very calculated. And a lot of people they just don't pay attention. They just don't have time for it. They don't, they watch CNN. They don't watch news, or they don't, they don't look into stuff. Well, they watch the mainstream media, and that's who they go to, and that's where they think they go to CNN. They think that they're getting the news, and they're not. But they're none the wiser.
Yeah. I was just kidding. I was saying because CNN's ratings have never been lower, right?
Yeah.
So that's
but a lot of that is now on YouTube and everything.
Yeah,
that's
what I mean.
It's kind of hard to.
You get 5-minute video or something from a show that's an hour and a half.
From Don Lemon doubling down on horse medicine.
Yeah, or something like that. But it's almost like it's like a magician's act, and they keep putting on the same sort of illusion, right? Like because like illusionists and magicians play on the limitations of the human mind, right? So like you can only notice a certain amount of things at any given time. So they use misdirection, they use all these different things. And it works for like a ridiculous percentage of people, probably 99.9% of people. There's always going to be those few that see the trick, right? They see the misdirection, they see this, they see exactly what's going on, right? And then, but I think if you keep exposing people to those tricks, in this case, we're talking about the phony stories and shit like that, people are going to start to see it. I think that's what I think you start to see now, like in a year and a half of this, the 15 days to spread.
This is where the NPC meme comes in, because I do think there's a significant enough percentage of the population that just isn't with it. They're not here with us, like they don't. There's no changing their mind. There's no. Well, there's been a couple, but there have been like some major stories by CNN that got a lot of traction that were like, oh my god, this thing happened. Like Donald Trump calls white nationalists fine people caliber of, the Covington kids. The Covington kids was a big one because CNN settled the lawsuit. So CNN lies about what happened that day and gets sued about it, and a lot of people had the information. The event was live streamed. A lot of people knew that CNN was full of it. Then CNN settles the lawsuit, effectively admitting that they're guilty, because you don't settle a lawsuit if you think you're going to win, right? They know that they're in the wrong, so they settled the lawsuit with the kids. And that was public. That was a very public story. But still, when CNN goes and does some big story about something, people don't think, oh, but what about that time that they lied? that was a mainstream thing that they were lying. They don't think that. They just think, oh my God, this new thing. Right? Like it's like their attention spans are just, it's totally out of whack. I think that the issue is that you can't convince a lot of the population. You just can't. There's no showing them. There's no, you could take someone's head and put it in a pool, and you can't convince them that their hair is wet. That's a weird analogy.
Yeah.
I didn't fully know where I was going with that. But I think that there are people.
That's
like,
the lack of DMT.
Yeah, I need some more of that.
Your analogies are suffering.
Yeah, but you can throw a bucket of water on them, and you're not going to convince them that they're wet, and you'd be like, look at you, you're dripping water everywhere you go. I'm not wet. They're not with it. It's scary sometimes.
If you think about the general population, a lot of them being either NPCs, sheep, whatever term you want to use, then they're not really going to care too much. But I think when it's because it's like the slow burn, right? Or a death by 1,000 cuts, right? You just don't see it's not killing you quick enough. It's not hurting you quick enough. So people just keep going along.
That is what's happening with society right now.
Right, but but it seems like there is some awakening to some degree, or there's some resistance.
There's a lot.
Like it seems like there is a resistance.
But it's not going anywhere.
Well, it's like, have you ever seen that video where the one guy's dancing in the field by himself for a while, and he looks ridiculous, right? He's by himself, and people.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And then like one person joins him,
there.
And then eventually, like by the end of it, it's everybody's dancing with him.
Yeah.
But it talks about how it takes one person to start a movement, right?
Right.
And it starts very slow, but it's always that first person out is always going to be the one that takes the most abuse, the most, it just gets eviscerated, right? But then when they start getting some backers, it's not nearly as bad, and then they end up becoming the pioneer of it, and then maybe to the point where they're now revered as, not to take that and segue it into like Martin Luther King, because like he had his fight on his side, at least as far as with blacks was very supported right away. But it'd be different if like he stepped in and not even his own side supported him at first. Like he was trying to create a movement on his own, where that's kind of like what it is now. Like you have people that would be on the side of somebody stepping out, let's say what's his face, Senator Paul Rand, right? Rand Paul, sorry. I always want to say Paul Rand because it sounds
I know,
like it sounds like somebody screwed it up. Like they went, know how like you put your first name and last name, and they just went, oh, I guess his name's Rand.
It's the Chinese way of doing things.
And he went, yeah, I guess that's my name.
Yeah, I guess.
No, it's Paul Rand, by the way. But anyways, so if like something like that, we agree with him, but we're really not stepping out and doing much of anything, just like anybody else, really. But the minute sort of other people that are powerful enough start to back him up, and then you get a movement, then everybody's going to kind of jump too. Everybody that's for that. And then you're going to get the people that aren't necessarily against it, but maybe mildly against it, or they're just going to go along with it. They're going to be like, oh, okay, well, if that's the way the wind's blowing, I guess I'm going that way too. But then you're going to get the other end that are going to be like adamant against it. And it's always sort of that way. It's like the ship keeps doing this, right? You can take it with left and right politics, right? I think the overcorrection that's been happening, like the pendulum, like you said,
and it goes farther.
Yeah, but
farther
I think
time.
I think the overcorrection of the wokeism, if you want to call it the leftism, the wokeism that's going on, I think you're going to get. I think they've pushed it too far. I think you're going to get a correction, because I think people are going to go, whoa, we were on board with certain things, but you're really taking this a little too far, and then you're going to start to see it hypercorrect the other way.
It's going to get really bad. We're at that cycle, that period. It happens every 80 years or so, where there's four. I want to see if I can find it real quick. There's 4 sections of I think it's called generational theory.
I think part of the problem in this case now, like with this sort of thing, is it's entrenched in the universities and colleges, right? So young people are being indoctrinated.
Okay. Four turnings. Okay, that's what it's called. So
Four turnings.
four turnings.
This is
cycle.
we should put a little music on right now, like a little interlude music.
Strauss-Howe generational theory, and so four stages of this cycle, or mood eras, which they call turnings. The turnings include the high, the awakening, the unraveling, and the crisis. And so I think
What stage are we in?
the crisis.
We're in the
Absolutely, we're in the crisis. Everything is in crisis. But you have the high following World War II, economic boom, everything like that. And then after that, you have the awakening. What's that? The 60s, the hippies, right? And all that jazz. And then the unraveling. You have the 80s and the 90s. Like, that's, I think the best example, someone gave, I forget who, it's, we ran out of gas. And due to the laws of momentum, we're going to keep going for a little bit, right? We got some momentum. But if we don't put more gas in the tank, pretty soon we're going to come to a stop. And I think that's kind of what happens in what year did did we go off the gold standard?
Oh God, in the 70s.
Yeah. So I think something like that marks the beginning of like the unraveling. And then from there it kind of gets worse, right? You had stagnation in wages. And then you get into the 2000s. And it just instantly turns into a crisis, right? 2008, there's an economic crisis that isn't resolved. It's resolved by just printing money. And then you get into the 2010s when you have this moral woke crisis start to build up. And where at first everyone's like, oh no, they're just a bunch of college kids. They're never going to get anywhere.
Buddy, I couldn't be more wrong about that, by the way. I had to check it. The gold standard? According to Google. June 5th, 1933, the United States went off the gold standard.
Wait, really? I thought it was in the 70s or the 80s too.
Wow.
I thought it was like...
It says, a monetary system in which currency is backed by gold. When Congress enacted a joint resolution nullifying the right of creditors to demand payment in gold, he also forbade banks to pay out gold or to export it.
Oh, yeah, FDR in 1933. Oh, look at that.
I thought it was in the 70s.
So, was it the Federal Reserve? When did the Federal Reserve become a thing? Or when did they get all their power?
I feel like I should know all this stuff, so don't ask me on camera. Yeah, that's wow. I thought it was in the 70s too. That's funny. 33. Okay, so
something happened in the 70s. What did they do in the 70s when it where stagnation started?
Hyperinflation. Again, same sort of thing.
Yeah, but what did they do to cause that? They did something. There was something that happened.
It's probably a lot to do with the Vietnam War and all that kind of stuff, right? So the 70s were tumultuous times. It was rough.
The unraveling.
It had some.
It's when
bad
everything
governance.
unraveled, right? Like immediately after World War II, you have it falls in line with hard times bring strong men bring good times bring weak men bring bad times. You have World War II, that those are our strongest men. They come back from the war, they raise their kids. The next 20, 30 years are booming because they raise their kids well, is what you can say. And the society that that their generation brought up was successful and it did well. There was an economic boom, money everywhere, and then those good times eventually lead to weak people, which is my generation. We're weak as fuck, and it's like a progressively worse.
You are the worst.
Yeah,
you're the worst.
Yeah, I am the worst. The Zoomers are the worst, and the millennials are bad.
I'm only 28, so I don't know where I fall.
28.
Right there, buddy.
You're turning 50 soon, aren't you?
43 on Monday.
Monday, November 1st.
What are you getting me? What are you getting me?
This.
Wow, you could have wrapped it at least.
I don't have the time.
If anybody,
you know what I'm gonna get you? I'm gonna pay my rent on time.
That's nice.
For once, I'm gonna pay it on time.
Big jerk. You're the worst kind of person. You're not even a good person. I don't even like you.
I'm a bad
Why do I have
person.
these conversations with you?
I know. What's wrong with you? There's something you like the punishment. You're a glutton for punishment.
I like talking to jerks.
The jerks, to the zoomers.
Jerk. You're a jerk. The jerks are cold.
Yeah.
I'm running out of you. Yeah. So we didn't really talk a lot about the Fauci thing, but I mean,
we got into it.
We got into it a little bit, but do you think this is the beginning of his downfall? Do you think
Fauci?
Do you
I
think
don't know. I think he's tied to some big names.
When I mean downfall, I don't mean this. Nobody's going to jail. Nobody goes to prison anymore.
No.
That's over. That used to
Yeah, he
happen.
might leave the public sphere. He might transition to like work for Microsoft. Who knows?
Yeah.
He'll work for the Gates Foundation. He'll be their lead scientist.
Well, I'm sure
with their gain of function.
He's probably
research.
filthy rich at this point with all the money that he's made off of.
I mean, he's the highest paid government official.
Well, it's not even that. Yeah. So what's that?
Well,
mean?
he's been doing it for decades.
Yeah,
you make $500,000 a year for decades. You're filthy rich, regardless of what else you pull.
I don't mean. But that's not filthy rich. I mean filthy rich.
Ooh.
So he made a lot of money on Moderna stock.
Yeah, that's true.
So did a lot of those guys, right?
Yeah. There are people that make a living now on TikTok posting Nancy Pelosi's trades.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They call her the goat of trading.
Yeah, so that's the worst. We're gonna have to have a podcast where we talk about the influence of
markets, politicians,
markets with politicians and self gain and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that at some point. Let's not get into it now because I don't want to.
Yeah, that's a big topic.
I don't want to sully this one with too many different things. I kind of want to stay on point a little of what we were trying to sort of discuss about. I have a feeling that it's going to be a bit of a slow burn with Fauci. I think if they kept doing hard lockdowns and all this stuff, and they're starting to back off with the vaccine mandates because certain companies are backing off too, like I guess Delta backed off, and some of the big airlines backed off. They said they're not going to push them. You got a lot of pushback with that in the States, especially, and we're always talking about the States, but realistically, we follow suit with the States. Like we might as well be one of their states. So like we're just a little slow. We're either a little ahead with certain things.
We are in Canada
or just slow
for anyone
behind them
who's wondering what we're talking about. We're Canadians.
We're Canadians.
Unfortunately,
right now, yeah.
Very, very authoritarian government.
Yeah, we used to think that Canada was a very free country, but
you can't travel.
No, I can't
across provinces.
I can't go anywhere. I'm a unvaccinated.
He's unclean.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not what you'd call an anti-vaxxer either.
No, you are what they would call an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah. I'm what they would call anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, they've completely stolen the word.
But I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not anti-vaccine at all. Like I'm actually happy that they have the vaccine. I think it's a good vaccine. I just don't think it's all that unsafe.
Kids should not take it.
No, I think it's pointless for kids to take it. Just like I think it's pointless for most people to take the flu vaccine. For one, there's like 4 different strains and they guess every year.
Yeah, and
they make their best guess, and they're going to do the same thing with COVID.
Unless you're old or you have some kind of illness.
Well, no, I mean,
it's just gonna help you. It's gonna help you if you catch the flu. Like you're gonna have a better immune system.
No, but not necessarily. What I'm saying though is because what they do every year, they guess which strain they think is going to be prevalent. Mm-hmm. They have a 25% chance of guessing right because there's 4 different strains. So if they put out the vaccine and it's not for the prevalent flu.
But I'm saying for you as a person to just catch the flu and be sick for a week is better.
Oh yeah, no. I thought you meant to get the vaccine.
No.
I agree. Yeah,
if you just get sick,
natural immunity is the best.
Yeah,
I get the flu usually like clockwork, somewhere in February or March, and I try and get it in there because it lasts for max 48 hours, and then I know I'm in the clear because I usually go away sometime in March.
I don't get
April.
sick anymore, except for when I got my
I haven't
COVID
been sick
vaccine.
now. I haven't been sick now in 2.5 years or 3 years almost now.
Yeah, probably the last 3 years. The most sick I've been was like
when you got the COVID vaccine.
Well, that not counting that though, because that was the worst sick that I've been in a long time. But just like very mild cold symptoms, like a bit of a runny nose, maybe a bit of a headache kind of thing. Nothing so bad that I can't go to work today. It's nothing like that.
I'm actually really concerned about the next time I get sick. I think it's going to be a dooze. Because I think my immune system's now been sort of
just from kind of being inside,
just from being secluded
around the same kind of group of people most of the time. I think you're probably doing enough.
I hope I'm all right. Like
being outside.
I try and eat well and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, that helps. Vitamin D.
Well,
vitamin D helps a lot. You gotta get your vitamin D.
But again, like to reiterate my point, I'm not against any of that stuff. I'm actually pro vaccinations, especially the normal vaccines that we have for measles.
Particularly by choice.
Right, and I mean, if a
Ghost is acting up in here.
Yeah, that's my ice machine. If a parent wants to give their child the vaccine or vaccinations in general, all the vaccinations.
Well, you have to go to public school, which is it's kind of fair.
And, I guess it's fair. It's a public school. If you choose to not, then there should be a secondary option for you as a private option that you.
That's why we need to get rid of the public system.
Yeah. Well, I tend to agree.
For pretty much everything.
I think we need some kind of catch-all for people that maybe are stuck.
I think we can do that. I think that if we had
two-tier systems,
let's just talk healthcare in general healthcare.
Oh God,
I feel like you can have a private.
Don't get too much into this, man, because we're going to talk about this at some other time.
I don't know. I feel like you can have a private healthcare system more similar to the States, privately owned hospitals and everything, and all you have to do is just regulate how they treat people of certain incomes.
Yeah, that sounds great, but the problem is when you start throwing the word regulate, who's regulating?
Well, yeah, you always have the expansion of power and everything.
That's the problem.
But it's less than what we have now. If you just have a private system where you're like, okay, if someone comes into your hospital, you have to treat them. Denying them treatment is criminal. Especially if they die, you're going to be charged with first-degree murder kind of thing. And then say everyone who goes into your hospital who makes less than $40,000 a year, you can make them pay in a way by giving them a bill, but there can't be any interest on it, and it can't be like you need to make a monthly payment. It should only just be okay, however much it is. So okay, you owe us $20,000. You do not have to make that payment unless you reach a certain income threshold, in which case maybe there are certain levels where it's like, okay, well now you're making $50,000 a year, so maybe now you need to pay $50 a month at least towards this. But there's no interest or anything like that. We're not gonna, put you in debt for the rest of your life. So it's kind of like you can pay it as you can pay it. And that way you have first you're gonna have people paying for prime services for the best doctors who can afford it, and then they're going to have the best healthcare. And I think that that's good for everybody when you have that drive to innovate. It does trickle down, right? You get this development of this crazy new treatment that cures cancer, but it's stupid expensive. It costs $500,000 to create it. It's like, okay, only a small percentage of people are going to be able to do that, but because they can do that and because they can pay for it, that's going to drive people. It's going to motivate people to innovate further and be like, okay, let's see if we can make this cheaper. Same, that's why you have affordable cars, right? You don't. It isn't just that you build a car and you're like, oh, like the first cars where it's stupid expensive and hardly anyone could afford a car or it was hardly worth getting. It sort of innovates to a point because it's if you have a cheaper car that everybody can afford, you as a corporation are going to make more money in the long run anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why private systems can work better. The problem with what's happening in the United States is you have big pharma has too much political influence. Mm-hmm. They can pull too many strings and they get away with too much, and so it's almost like a public system in the way that they cooperate with the government to where it hurts everybody. Mm-hmm. But I think that there are ways to kind of do these kinds of things that don't screw over the private individuals running the things, but also don't screw over the people who actually need to depend on the services.
I have a lot of ideas on this subject. Obviously, coming from a financial background, I have a lot of ideas on these kinds of things, but I'm not going to get into them right now because I don't want to sell you this current podcast with all that.
All your bad ideas.
All my bad ideas, yeah. It's funny. I actually have a whole idea about a sort of a new system. but I'm sure it's
if you just start describing communism, I swear to God.
No, I'm not gonna describe it now, anyway. But I was actually gonna write a book about it. Just based on different pieces of systems that actually work, and then making changes to make them work. But I think inherently in any system, the problem is you get corruption and greed, and then it's right. If you can control.
That's why anarchy.
Yeah, if you can control, somehow control the source of it, and it not being run by humans, let's say, like you'd almost have to have some kind of blockchain for government, where it was like it was controlled. The ledger was controlled by people, but they don't know they're controlling it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
it almost makes sense to decentralize the government that way too, because when you take people out of the equation, you end up getting pure sort of value there, right? Like you'd possibly have people.
You will get a lack of. There is a human side to things that is kind of important in our system, where it's kind of like, I don't know. You have a.
Why are we getting into this, man?
I don't know. You
I know.
kept going.
I know. I couldn't help myself. I had a thought.
We'll leave it at.
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
Let's talk about this another time. I don't think it's easy
to get rid of the human influence.
Yeah. I
do think it goes away with post scarcity.
Yeah. Oh no, you're right.
I think we need to make a mad dash towards that, which I think we're kind of doing, right, with the space industry.
If you look at just humanity in general, we are the least impoverished we've ever been. So we're making the right moves, right?
Huge amounts of progress.
So it's
we were.
We were. Yeah, stagnated. I mean, it's been a step back now for the last 2 years, but or better part of 2 years anyway. But
14 days is still the curve.
Yeah, how many days did we say? 4, 5?
4 days.
We're on the
day
fourth
4.
Day 4. Yeah, it's fucking long 4 days, man.
It's been a long 4 days.
I feel like I haven't slept.
I know. 4 days.
Yeah. I don't know. So, want to end it there?
Yeah.
We'll end it on nothing. We're just ending it basically on nothing. We made zero real point. We just talked a lot.
We just spoke.
We
made some points about some things along the way.
I don't know what was our original topic about
Fauci and lying to Rand Paul.
Yeah,
and that being proven.
Could be the end of it. Maybe it's the end of the NIH, and
I think a part of it is just they're blatantly they're waving it. They're shoving our noses in it now. At this point, I think they're just kind of. Like, see what we can do and we can get away with it.
The mad scientist.
You're going to do nothing.
Yeah.
You're going to do nothing as we...
Well, like I said, it's like nobody goes to jail anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody goes to jail for anything anymore. So it's like...
No, you go to jail for thought crimes if you're a right-winger.
Yeah.
Look at what they're doing to the January 6th people. They put them in solitary confinement. But what happens if you, attack a... What was it? Yeah, there was a guy who attacked a police officer with a knife in San Francisco or something like that. DA put him back on the street. A couple days later, he macheted a man in front of his family. Mm-hmm. It's like,
I don't know, some weird times.
So we'll end it at society is crumbling.
The next podcast, maybe we'll talk about the economic.
Maybe we'll solve all the problems. We're gonna solve all the world's problems in our next podcast.
Yeah.
Which will probably be next Friday.
Yeah, Tyler's going to be the new world leader.
I'm going to be the new world leader, yes. You will all bow down to me.
And you're not going to own anything. He's going to own everything.
I'm going to own all your stuff, and you're going to rent it from me.
And you're going to be happy.
And you're going to be happy.
Yeah. It's weird because you're renting now.
Yeah.
So you renting now, and then you won't. Then you're not going to be renting anymore. People are going to be renting from you.
That's right.
The renter.
It'll be a total flip.
The rented.
The rentee. Renter.
Whatever.